Hey, taxpayers. Prime Minister Justin Trudeau just visited Nova Scotia and he spoke at the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. After his speech, he sat down for a few questions, and I went through the entire thing, and I've pulled 4 separate clips that I want to look at with you. I listened to him for almost an hour, and so I've pulled out 4 clips for us to go through here. So the first clip is where he's asked about the very recent provincial election in Nova Scotia and the role that the carbon tax played in that provincial election. It gets awkward. Listen to this.
Premier Houston may not have mentioned this morning that in his campaign, he did link the federal Liberal Party to the provincial Liberal Party and then to the carbon tax. So I'm just wondering, given that the Liberal Party didn't do very well in Nova Scotia in the most recent election, what does that tell you about the current voter thinking about the carbon tax?
It says a lot about the disconnect between what people perceive of as good policy versus what they perceive of as good politics. There are lots of things out there that seem very, very popular to do politically, and people are falling over themselves to try and do them. And we only need to look south of the border to know that very popular policy is sometimes not very good policy.
What do you take from that? So I think he's trying to separate the idea of politics from policy and getting kind of mad at the voter for getting swept up in politics and not appreciating the genius that is his carbon tax policy. A couple of things there. Number one, the prime minister is a politician. For surezies. He's been a politician for many years. He was born to a politician. This is the political arena that he is in. Okay, that's one. Two, it is possible to have great policy and to deliver them with good politics. That's entirely possible. So speaking of bad politics, remember when the prime minister flew down to Brazil for that Up With People global conference thing? And he scolded people on stage for caring more about feeding their kids and paying their rent than about paying for his carbon tax. Remember that? Yeah, he doubled down on that. Listen to this.
But every time we talk about fighting climate change, people say, oh, this is something that's going to make a difference a decade from now or 2 decades from now, and I can't pay for groceries right now. I'm worried about paying my rent right now. I'm worried about my kids' future now and next week, not 20 years from now. It'd be nice if we could do things for 20 years from now, but I need help right now. That's not a new way of thinking. That didn't get invented in the last provincial election. That's been at the core of the challenge of fighting climate change for decades. It's why we signed on to Kyoto and missed the Kyoto targets. Actually taking action on reducing emissions and fighting climate change is hard.
Yeah, but wait, there's more. It's the prime minister's greatest hits, all in this one interview that he did with the Halifax Chamber of Commerce. So you know the whole thing where he tries to say that, the average Canadian family is better off because of his carbon tax, because magically, of course, if you give the government a $20 bill, they can give you a 50 back at no cost to you, said no common sense person ever. So that's silly because 1, it defies common sense. And 2, the parliamentary budget officer has shown that the average Canadian family is out up to $400 this year net because of the carbon tax. Net means with rebates factored in. Okay. So I don't know what he's talking about in this next coming clip where he says the average family gets more back than they pay in. But the hilarious part is, remember quite a while ago when he said something to the effect of, oh, well, only people with big mansions and indoor swimming pools are the ones who are truly paying the cost of the carbon tax. All you little people without the indoor swimming pools, you're not feeling it at all because you get more money back. He said it again, but this time it was 3 mansions. Listen to this.
We said we're going to take that price on pollution and we're going to return it to ordinary citizens. Now, you may say, well, what's the point of a price on pollution if you're just going to give it back to people? Well, if everyone gets, here in Nova Scotia, about $824 a year from the Canada Carbon Rebate, that's the average price. Now, if you have 3 big mansions with an indoor swimming pool, That $824 a year isn't going to cover that price on pollution. You're choosing to pollute more than we're giving you back for. But if you're a middle-class family, and if you're living in rural areas, we give a 20% top-up because we know you have to drive further to go to schools, to drop to school or work. We're giving you that money back.
So again, if you're an average Canadian family, you are not getting all of the money back that you pay into the carbon tax. Just a reminder, it's not just you filling up your own minivan, which is costing you about $13 extra, by the way, in that carbon tax. That's not the only cost. Keep in mind that farmers pay the carbon tax to dry their grain and heat their barn. Also, truckers pay the carbon tax, 21 cents extra per liter of diesel. If you're filling up a couple of cylinders on a big rig truck, that's about $200 extra just in the carbon tax. And don't forget, of course, it's cold outside. We're paying a carbon tax on our winter heating fuels. So the average Alberta family, for example, using natural gas, they're going to pay more than $400 extra this winter just in the carbon tax for heating their home. So yeah, that sets me off. No, if you're an average Canadian family, you are not getting all the money you pay out in the carbon tax returned back to you. And the Parliamentary Budget Officer showed that in his report. Okay, folks, last clip, and it's worth it because the Prime Minister says that he has to keep explaining this all to us people. Listen to this.
That's the policy. And it just took me 4 minutes to explain it to all of you. And in politics these days, we don't have 4 minutes nearly often enough. We're not having real conversations around politics now. We're having, 7-second TikTok videos. We're having a bumper sticker or a flag that's waving when I'm around. That's political discourse and debate. Of course, it's easy to say, tax is bad.
Hey, that's a great idea for a new bumper sticker. Tax is bad. Fits on there real well. I also think that his impersonation of Franco's voice needs a little bit of work. But folks, let's take this as a win, okay? Because he's clearly annoyed. And that's a very good thing because he's the Prime Minister of Canada. He's the one that keeps on jacking up the carbon tax while doubling the national debt. And you know what? That's going to wind up on a bumper sticker telling him to scrap the carbon tax. So folks, if you would like to help convince a politician to do the right thing, do your part. Head on over to our website, taxpayer.com, sign the petitions that mean a lot to you, including scrapping carbon taxes. Then you're part of the taxpayer standing army. And the next time it's time to do a mass email or push a video to the top of the algorithm vine, you will be the first one on the case. And just a note, while you're there, we also have a store that has t-shirts and they have plucky slogans written across them like scrap the carbon tax. It would be a great Christmas present for you to buy one of those t-shirts for yourself, put it on, take a picture of yourself saying scrap the carbon tax on your t-shirt, post it to social media, maybe even tag the Prime Minister or your other favorite politician. And if you're worried that we're picking on the Prime Minister too much, just remember that it is his job as a member of the House of Commons to represent us commoners. In fact, the Prime Minister of Canada, he's paid more than $400,000 a year at taxpayer expense. He works for us, and he can hear loud and clear that we want him to scrap the carbon tax.